Hey everybody, welcome back. You're now in the seventh section and we're going to do more great communication tips, but I want to congratulate you. You are more than halfway done and you have learned a ton of information. You are not the same person that started this training. Why? Because you have so much more skill and so much more mastery, much more to come. Let's jump in this next section. It's absolutely amazing. Now, your next tip is that the person who asked the question controls the conversation. This is amazing. You can control any conversation by simply asking a question, even if you're nobody. I remember when I was in high school, a friend of mine taught me this skill. I said to my buddy Nick, I said, man, my classes are so boring, you know? Teacher never talks about any of the good stuff that I want to hear about, you know? And he said a simple thing to me. He said, Paul, did you ask any questions in class? I said, I don't want the teacher to notice me. I just sit there and shut up. He said, no. The teacher actually works for you. And here's how you can control them like a puppet on marionette strings. So here's what you do. Simply ask a question. They're so excited that somebody's actually interested in their class, they're going to go ahead and answer the question. They can't not answer the question. They're going to be thrilled to answer the question. And guess who's controlling the conversation now? No longer them, but you. If you don't interrupt them, that teacher will do whatever they had planned for that day or whatever floats into their head. That will be the entire conversation. But with one simple question, boom, you can completely change the direction of the conversation. As long as it matches up even slightly with what they're talking about, if it's even remotely on target, if you can even kind of force it and shoebox it in so it's remotely on target or on topic, they will be thrilled to answer that question. Well, I tried this out in high school a few times, and I would ask them even some pretty obscure questions, but the teacher was always more than good about answering the question and kind of excited that I even asked one. So this technique absolutely worked. When I went out into the work field, what I could do is I could change the conversation by simply asking a different question. I learned later in psychology that this is actually a powerful drive of the mind. If you think about the mind, what does the mind actually do? It asks and answers questions. What does this mean? And then it gives an answer. What should I do about this? And then it develops a what? Answer. When you're talking in a conversation, you're largely asking and answering questions. It's not the only thing you do, but it's a huge component, right? But people don't realize that you can control the conversation, direct it, and steer it. Because once I ask you a question, your brain is literally compelled to answer that question. Very hard to get around it. Now, having realized this, I'm hoping this will help you stay on track when people ask you odd questions that throw you off track. What you do is you learn to loop back around. You kind of answer their question and make it relate back to what you were saying originally and then go back on with what you were saying. So that's how to get around this, because I don't want you to get trapped by this either. Now, let's dig a little bit more into how questions can control the conversation. So, questions can do an awful lot of things. Questions can impact mood. So if I say, hey, what's really great in your life right now? You'll start thinking about, oh, all these great times that you've had in your life and things that are going really well now, and I can literally see your mood increase. If I say, what really stinks about your life right now? You'll think about all the bad things that happened and, you know, things that didn't happen or should have happened or how far behind you are and blah, blah, blah. And your mood will drop noticeably. So I can impact your mood, boom, like that, by simply asking a different question. I can ask a question like, it's kind of a question, but it's almost like a statement. Don't you always succeed when you do this? You know, my experience is that you always succeed. Isn't that right? So I'm making a statement. My experience is you always succeed. Isn't that right? And if it's true, then what you're going to do is you're going to turn them around from maybe doubting themselves to feeling self-confident. That's an impact in mood by asking the right question, and I pre-assume the answer. My experience is you always succeed. Presumption. Then I ask a question. What's the brain going to lock onto for the answer? What I just said. Isn't that true? Well, what's the last thing the brain heard? In Paul's experience, you always succeed. You want me to be right. You're already thinking about the times you've succeeded, because the first thing that happened when I said you always succeed, your brain said, is that true? And it started focusing on that. So see how many different psychological ways I got your brain to focus on you succeeding? Killer. Now, questions can get more info. That's the common reason we think we use questions. I'm going to leave that flat right there. Why? Because we kind of know that that's what we do. Hey, how do you do this, fix this, solve this, complete this, boom, 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 boom. We know we ask questions to get information. But I want you to use the clever ways, like to impact mood, and the next one, to create insights. Have you ever considered, and boom, off you go. That can create insight. People say, like in therapy to me, they'll say, oh my God, I'm such a loser and blah, 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 blah. I say, is that true? You're still here. You're actually kind of tougher than me. You've survived everything that's ever happened to you. Some of those things, I heard them in group. They just snapped me like a twig. I haven't had a hard life like you, so I'm not hardened. It would have crushed me. Are you sure you're a weak person? Or are you a strong person who's just taken a heavy, heavy beating year after year after year? Is that weakness or is that strength? See how I'm using questions over and over and over again, almost in rapid succession, to give them a new insight? They think they're weak, and I'm actually showing them that the very reason they think they're weak, they're actually strong. And how'd I do it? I did it through a series of questions. Pretty clever, right? You can do things like this all the time. When people question their courage, I make them question their lack of courage. When they question their strength, I make them question their lack of strength. I go in the opposite direction. I can always check attention. So I can ask a question like, when's one time that happened to you? Have you had a similar situation? Give me an example of one time when you blank. Now somebody who wasn't paying attention has to pay attention. I used to be able to get attention in groups and in crowds simply by looking at somebody or walking around the room and I'd tap them on the shoulder. Or I would ask them a question and boom, they perked right back up. It was a way to scan the crowd and to check on and garner fresh attention. I literally was rejuvenating their attention. Nice technique, right? Now, you can also use questions to create doubt. What's a good example of that? Well, similar to the last one I gave you. Are you really a loser? Losers quit. Losers don't try to get better. Losers don't come into treatment. Losers don't go to AA. They're out the bars. You literally can't be in this room and be a loser. You know why? Question. Because you don't lose until you quit. See, question, asked, and answered. I created doubt about their weakness. You can create doubt about anything. Say I wanted somebody to think their girlfriend was cheating on them. I say, I could have sworn I saw your girlfriend at the mall with somebody. Like, question mark. Is that going to create doubt? Yeah. Now, please don't use this for evil, but if you want to create doubt in somebody, sometimes you can question it. They're telling you about their great business plan. I say, how do you absolutely positively know you're going to succeed in that? And they're going to come up with answers, but the answers are going to be a little bit weak. Absolutely sure? See? You can create weakness. You can create doubt. Doubt will unglue ideas. Addicts would tell me, oh, my using friends promised me they wouldn't use in front of me. They promised you? I just leave the question hanging there. Are these people reliable? They ever not been faithful to their word? You ever lent them money and they didn't give it back? You ever asked them to be someplace and they weren't there for you? Now I'm creating doubt, creating doubt, creating doubt, because I already know that they've lent them money and they didn't get it back. I already know that these people have let them down. They're other addicts. Of course they let people down. That's what addicts do. Okay, that's why they're in treatment. That's why they hit a bottom, because they let people down. I created doubt, okay? Because I want to talk them out of a stupid idea that's going to get them hurt. So I create doubt, which loosens it up, which makes it easier to what? Defeat. Questions that you ask can also set the tone. If you wanted to create the best life possible, how would you do it? What is the tone that I just set? That your life's going to be great, and that there's ways to make that happen, and that you can think of ways to make it happen right now. Is that moving you in a positive direction or a negative direction? Positive. It's setting the tone. It's also setting what we're going to talk about, right? So it's setting topic, like we talked about in the last section. Now, I can also discover values. What's most important for you? Or why is that important to you? Uncover beliefs. Why do you think that? Or what would I have to believe this? You know, what would I have to think to believe this? You can ask questions about the beliefs. Why is that important to you? What makes you think that's true? When did you first start believing that? I can ask questions that'll uncover beliefs like, I say, what's most important to you in life? And they'll start telling me their values and beliefs. Great way to uncover it. What's most important to you in this deal? And by the answer that they give me, under that is a value and a belief. I can use questions even to interrupt patterns. Hey, did you know the Bucks are coming to the stadium this weekend? Has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But if they were agitated, if they were upset, if they were confused, if they were hurt, it makes them think about something else, which de-escalates their current state because it was interrupted, and now they have to go back to it. And I go, oh, I'm sorry, you were talking about, and their state has dropped. Whatever it was, good, bad, or indifferent, it will drop because I did a pattern interrupt. And you can do that a lot of different ways. But whenever somebody's state is getting too much of something that you don't want it to, you can just talk about anything else. Just move the conversation a little bit and then go back. It can be a stupid thing. You can start tapping on your phone and saying, do you ever have a time where, you push the power button and the thing actually shut off? Now that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but it makes them think about that. It totally gets them off what they were thinking about that was upsetting them or whatever. And when they come back to it, they're not as upset as they were. And you go like, oh, I'm sorry, you were talking about, and you let them go back to what they were talking about. But now they're at a lower level. We used to use this in therapy a lot to de-escalate people. So questions can be very, very powerful, and they can do an awful lot of different things. Now, here's some interesting concepts. When you're talking about communication, the Greeks used to use these three concepts: ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos was ethics and character. You always want to do things that show ethics and character. You always want to go to the higher self, both in presenting who you are and in describing who the other person is. And people will love you for this. If you describe them as having greater ethics, greater character than they actually have, they will love you. The next one is pathos, passion, emotion. If you add emotion into your presentation, feeling into what you're talking about with people or about people, that will increase your communication. And logos is just adding logic in. A lot of times I'll say something that's very passionate and emotional about a person. I'll say, but you know why I know that's true? Because there was this one time when I saw you doing this, and I was touched. I thought it was really smart when you did blah, 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 blah. So not only am I saying, hey, you're a great person, I'm supporting it with facts. Because if you say, hey, you're a great person, you say, ah, you're just saying that, or you're my therapist, or you're my friend, or whatever, or you're just trying to make a sale. But when I can show proof that my emotion, my passion behind why I feel the way about you that I do is also not so much passion, but fact, it's true, it's real, then it becomes powerful. It becomes unavoidable. Like when I tell anybody in therapy that they're a great person, like I said, hey, you're not a loser, you know why? And I was reaching out to them emotionally. I wanted them to let them know that I supported them. That was the pathos. The logic is losers don't come to these meetings. Losers don't try to help themselves. See how this is logic? Losers aren't working on how to become a better person. Losers don't even feel bad about being losers. And the person's like, that was really nice of you to say. And that was also really true. If you just say, hey, you're not a bad guy, that's going to roll off them like water off a duck. They'll appreciate it, but they won't believe it because it's not passion backed by logic. Does that make sense? And remember the ethos, because that's not small either. If you are not an honest witness, if you are not using ethics and character, if you're just out there blowing smoke up everybody's crevices, they are not going to believe you. Why? Because you have no credibility. That's why, like, say you're doing a marketing webinar. One of the first things they'll always do is do the why should you listen to me part. Hey, my name's Paul and I'm CEO of myadvancedideas.com. I've run multi-million-dollar businesses. I have multiple degrees, blah, 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 blah. What you're doing is you're going through the character. Why should you listen to me? Because I've already done what you need to do. And I've got the right credentials after my name to be the person to be able to help you. I'm a good, solid person, and here's why. I'll even talk about my what? Pathos, passion, and commitment to helping you. Which what? Goes back to my character. I'm the type of person that wants to do what? To help. That's a person we trust. Now, last tip for this section, let people know that you like them. A lot of times you actually like somebody, but look at these two pictures. You forgot to tell your face. Isn't that funny? You forgot to tell your face. You're not smiling, okay? Your emotion is too flat. And remember, we said 55% of communication is body language. So letting people know that you like them is a lot of different things. So look at these two pictures. Happy to see you or so happy to see you. You know, one you question if they're even happy to see you. The other one, you know they're thrilled to see you. You can do this in a lot of ways. I'll tell people right out, hey, it's great to see you. Oh my God, when's the last time I actually saw you? I'm so glad we finally got together. You do the handshake, you do the hug, you do the smile, you do the warm greeting. They knock on the door and you run over and you answer right away. You know, you want to connect with people. There's an old expression that says the head never hears until the heart has listened. You got to make sure that you have that heart-to-heart connection with somebody. Somebody knows that you like them. We only connect with people that we know, like, and trust. So liking. We like people that have the good common sense to like us. So you always have to let people know that you like them. This is absolutely huge in connecting and creating rapport. Until you have a rapport, a connection, remember that bridge of the minds, that's what rapport is, no communication really happens. At least no communication that's effective. So that's your last tip for this section. You're more than halfway through. I am so proud of you, and I will see you in the next section.